How did you react when you first heard the news?
Well, I was sad to realize that 3 people were killed, 170 injured. I was sad to see that this happened on an occasion that there was marathon runners, which is an open race, and you see people of different races, different ethnic background. It was a great event for Boston, and Bostonians were very proud.
And where they would be, and I knew that they would be very close to the finish line. So I was kind of in waiting, which I think a lot of people felt that knew people there, wondering about loved ones, and so I think that was my initial reaction, just because I had that close connection.
That's scary.
And actually they were at mile 25.
I think, like most people, I was shocked at an event that previously had not had any connection with terrorism, and there was a sense of loss in aspects of our life that we thought were spared of political violence now being marred by political violence. And as someone who's been jogging and running,
you know, it was one of shock and worry and hope that it wasn't, you know, a kind of 9/11 type event.
I think a friend told me. I get the New York Times every morning, so I read the New York Times and watched a little bit of Rachel Maddow.
Actually, a member of my family texted me because I have a daughter and son-in-law who live in Boston.
Just before 2:50 p.m., this is the viewpoint seen by many of the 26,000 marathon runners who are approaching the finish line.
Today, we are enlisting the public's help to identify the 2 suspects. After a very detailed analysis of photo, video, and other evidence, we are releasing photos of these 2 suspects. They are identified as Suspect 1 and Suspect 2.
Really keeping the lights on the boat, and then we heard a loudspeaker, and it was clearly a police official saying to the suspect, we now know was very likely the suspect inside that boat, we know you're in there. Come out with your hands up. Come out on your own terms.
Back at the 9/11 thing again. You know, terrorists could strike, they could strike home, it could be, if it is in Boston, it could happen in Los Angeles next day. I have this fear. It actually put back the fear in the hearts of the people that, look, we had since 9/11, we have had about 12 years of somewhat tranquility.
You know, have been one of shock, and I think a lot of people have felt a connection just because I think running marathons is one of those things that people participate in as a society and as a group. And you know, we have our big runs here, the Beta Breakers and marathons, and people raise money oftentimes for research, and it's kind of something that is like a lifelong dream of people. So I think there's a connection there. So I think it's shocking and startling when something like that happens that affects people.
One of the most memorable aspects of this whole situation was trying to follow it on Twitter and seeing the way in which people leapt to conclusions, and that was kind of interesting for me because I was, you know, leapt to conclusions as well. It seemed to make sense to me.
I think the United States is a bit naive and about the nature of these kinds of things, but you know, we don't know enough about the Boston bombing to be able to say anything really about it. We won't know enough for a while.